capes and conundrums. The thrown weapon soars through the air and hits the edge of its glowing target. It's in the outer ring. Another 4 are quickly thrown, and the best is one of them hitting between the inner ring and the bullseye. "This is a lot easier with my armor," Ambush Knight states in an annoyed tone. "How did you get a throwing assistance program into your armor?" Robin asks after a moment. "Is now the time?" she asks plaintively. "I'm trying to distract you from overthinking." "Overthinking?" she demands. "Take your time to aim and make the movements as smooth as you can. This third test isn't timed, there's just no breaks allowed." Robin tells her even as Shadowflight enters the room. "Ah, welcome, welcome little bat. There is still a clue that you have not found. Do you wish to continue without it?" El Reno asks her grandly, and she pauses, considers, and then nods. "Yes, I know who it is," Shadowflight says confidently. "Very good. Now, let us begin the testing. As the boy wonder, there is tending to your comrade in arms, it shall be El Reno that tests your skills. With which weapon of war shall you test yourself? The padded gloves to test your hard strikes. Perhaps you'd like to grapple with El Reno. Test yourself with a pugil or eskrima stick. Or perhaps you'd like to test your might with a thrown weapon such as your comrade is doing now." El Reno asks her, and she considers the choice. Perhaps. But I think I'd like to start with grappling," Shadowflight says in a purring tone. "Oh? You wish to challenge El Reno in his own field of battle?" El Reno asks her, and she smiles. Yes, I would. Do you think that we can start soon?" Shadowflight teases even as Ambush Knight slowly lines up her next shot, takes a couple practice motions like a golfer lining up shot, and then releases the throwing star. The magnetized but blunted weapon soars through the air and sticks just on the outer edge of the bullseye. "See? You can do it," Robin states before leaning in close to whisper. "Now, there are 2 things to consider when it comes to ranged weapons. But before we go into that, I know you found another clue. Tell me why you think it applies to Killer Croc." Ambush Knight opens her mouth and then turns as she realizes he took an outright 90-degree turn in the topic before huffing in amusement. "I found a severed hand, or rather, the stand-in for one. It was in a corner and there wasn't much blood around it, but an injury like that would bleed a lot, so the injury didn't happen there. But there was enough blood to suggest that something else happened. I think a body was moved through the area, but in such poor condition that rough handling made a hand fall off. Sloppy work that. Many people think that when they get out of the sight of the public they can relax, but it's often where the best clues are. The lack of traffic preserves the information for far longer, and the sudden sloppiness can even show you exactly where the person started to relax. So, who relaxed?" I considered hush for a moment, but it didn't match up with the other clues. On its own, it could be any number of villains, but a lightless area means it's not likely poison ivy feeding her plants. If Mr. Freeze caused it, then there would be hints of ice damage. Zast doesn't tend to carve up bodies like that. Penguin, Black Mask, and the other more gangster criminals tend to either dispose of things more thoroughly or outright display them as a warning. It definitely wasn't Joker's style. Bane doesn't bother cutting his opponents, but it matched up very well with Killer Croc's cannibalistic tendencies. It would also explain where the rest of the body went and matched up perfectly with the other clues. Very interesting. So did you actually consider everything, or were you just filling in for time as you line up the next shot? He asks her as the magnetic throwing weapon hits the center again. A little of one and a little of the other. I've only got 3 more throwing stars left. I want to make them count. Ambush Knight says, and they both turn as they hear a bellow from El Reno, who, "You're testing her martial skill, not her marital skill, El Reno," Robin calls out instantly as Ambush Knight lets out a cheer. Shadowflight has her legs wrapped around his head and is trying to force his knees to give way as she pulls at them. The position looks downright sexual. El Reno knows, but the bat is full of eagerness. El Reno protests, and Robin sighs. That man is completely committed to the bit. He mutters as he hears a thunk and a high-pitched squeak of something too high for him to fully hear. Seeing as how Ambush Knight's throw ended up between the inner and outer ring on her target, he's going to assume it was a curse of some kind in yet another language he doesn't know. 2 left. When your hands are empty, your test finishes. Are you absolutely sure it's Killer Croc you're after? He asks her and she nods. I am. Every clue I've found rules out other criminals, even if it matches up to a few. The claw marks could easily be a Wonder Woman villain cheetah stopping by for a visit. The claw marks are an easy indicator of a lot of things. But having them near water? Not to mention the damaged gun. A lot of villains are happy to use guns. Most of them, in fact. But of those that aren't, only a few have the sheer strength to crush one like that was. Croc still fits. And you've explained the hand, Robin says, and she nods. Yes, it all matches. A big monster from the water, unafraid but not able to use a gun easily. A cannibal, Killer Croc. Or a Jorgwa with a morbid sense of style. Robin remarks, and there's a cry from Shadowflight causing both of them to turn and see. Martial, not marital, Robin calls over to where El Reno has Shadowflight about as thoroughly pinned as possible. El Reno is touching no part of the lady that is marital, El Reno protests. Your shirt's off. We could sell the recording as pay-per-view porn. Robin taunts him, and Shadowflight dissolves into giggles which allows El Reno to pin her even more thoroughly. And that's why you don't let yourself get distracted, Shadowflight. Hey, that's cheating, Shadowflight protests. I didn't see any cheating, did you? Robin asks Ambush Knight, who chuckles before they both glance up and see one of the monitors on the wall light up. It shows Darkscream arriving at the pool and poking it once before stepping out onto it and examining the forced perspective painting under the shiny resin as closely as possible for every iota of detail. It looks like she's trying to lick something off the floor. Wait, you only have cameras near the clues? Ambush Knight asks. No. Well, yes, but actually no. In this room, the screens only show when someone is near the clues. But there's a dedicated terminal for these training rooms, 4 actually, but as only one is being used at a time, only one has someone watching. That person has complete oversight over the entire area and knows where everyone is at all times, just in case. It came in handy too. Darkscream started to try breaking things to find an answer, and I was sent to stop that. Why would she do that? She probably saw one of the Batman games where you rip the grating off the walls and crawl through the vents to get the drop on people. She must have assumed she'd have to do the same here, but in this playground, you don't have to force anything. If you need to do anything more than nudge it with a finger to move it, then it's not supposed to move, Robin says. Now, you have 2 more throws before your test ends. Any doubts? You keep asking me that, and I might actually start doubting myself, Ambush Knight says, and Robin lets out an ominous chuckle. Stop that. But it's my best lawyer laugh, he protests, and that's when Robin White learned that the so-near equivalent of an eye roll involves them swaying their head from side to side while keeping their ears perfectly still and unmoving. That's when she moves downright perfectly and throws her 2 remaining throwing stars, and they stick together until they bury themselves dead center. She straightens up and blinks in confusion a little before sighing. Of course I do my best right then and there. What is wrong with me? Nothing. You're just growing in skill, Robin says before pointing at a console in the wall. Your test is now concluded. Input your answer into the Bat computer for your results. Without you inputting anything? She asks, and he points straight up to a camera she can't see. We're being watched. I am your tester and sparring partner, not your grader. However, when we have things up and running... Actually, Overwatch interrupts in Robin's earpiece. Actually what? He asks, poking the device to signify to Ambush Knight that he's talking with someone else. We finished our first few badges. I'm setting up the teleporter for them, Overwatch says. Excellent. That'll work great. Robin answers with a smile. Badges? Ambush Knight asks, showing off that the large Sonir ears are not for show. Yes, badges. Show them and you're allowed on the site of the events. Higher level events require higher level badges, but they can all be told apart at a glance, Robin explains. Put in the answer, and if it's right, you'll have a badge show. He's interrupted by a chiming noise from the wall next to the Bat computer, and a panel pops open to reveal a small pile of badges already there. Robin's longer stride has him as the first one there, even as, "Ha ha, you are a slippery one. Perhaps not the strongest yourself, you know how to break a grip like instinct." El Reno compliments Shadowflight, and they turn to see her flutter away from the large man. This test is passed, and most well indeed. Now, what is the next weapon you shall be using to face El Reno? Speaking of El Reno, catch, Robin says, as he finally sees what the pile of badges is about, and he pushes down the urge to chuckle. The larger man easily grabs the 2 badges out of the air and then throws his head back in a vigorous laugh. Ha ha ha! They recognize the excellence that is El Reno, and the sheer strength of his lesser, other self. The Lucha announces as he pockets the level 4 badge that has Santiago Bernal on it and clips onto his belt the Batman-themed badge that proclaims El Reno as a Dark Knight on Skathak. "What is this?" Ambush Knight asks in amusement as he hands her one of the blank badges and an extension. These badges work by clipping together. The level 1 is the circle with of Skathak on it, as you can see. Levels 2 and 3 extend it into an oval, and level 4 has a bat symbol with your name on it that clips in. Robin explains as he reaches over and clips on one of the extensions with a 2 on it. "That symbol is a human number, isn't it?" Ambush Knight asks as she takes the badge dubiously. She then turns it over in her hand. Well, it's made of metal, so it won't be easily destroyed. Plastic is too easy to break. Anyways, the silhouette of the badge changes at level 2 and 3, and level 4 is so visibly different that you can tell at a glance, Robin says as he turns over the badge for himself. It's the bat symbol with the yellow background. In the central part, it says "of" above the symbol and then Skathak below it. His name is in white in the middle of the symbol, and the wings have dark and night on the left and right side, respectively. There are little clips on the back of things so he can easily attach it to a belt or any piece of clothing. So I'm already approved for level 2, and I need level 4 if I want my name on it. Ambush Knight notes, and both of them turn at the sound of padded ends hitting things as Shadowflight and El Reno go at each other with pugil sticks. "Ha ha! No bat can withstand the charge of El Reno," the Lucha announces, and Robin snorts as he cleans out the shelf. He'll pass out the other 2 badges when appropriate. "Now, enter your answer. See if you've passed," Robin says, and Ambush Knight sighs and steps up to the computer and starts going through it. She seems startled when it asks her why she thinks Killer Croc, and she starts typing to summarize her findings and logic. Then it shows a black screen with the bat symbol filling in and out starts up. There is a twist of axiom, and another piece of a badge appears in the panel. Ambush Knight slots it into the central part of her badge and turns to smile at Robin. "Well done. You've earned it," Robin says, and she smiles even as one of the screens lights up to show that Darkscream is examining the damaged gun and is paying a lot of attention to the places where the cracks are. The test is moving along perfectly.